What an inspiration. This is one of our top 10 heroes of Japan, everybody. What an inspiration. Okay, so there's something I quickly need to get out of the way to clarify for many manga readers that might have forgotten. Kurogiri, he was captured by Gran Torino a while back and all that. It was like around the beginning of the, or at the end of the overhaul arc. It was at the end of the overhaul arc and at the beginning of the arc with, the school festival and all that. And we had it to where Gran Torino captured Kurogiri, and Kurogiri's like, this is all for one's greatest servant, or one of his greatest servants. And you saw like this giant villain just wipe out a big section of a mountain. And that's kind of the last part we saw of that segment of the story. So we know that Kurogiri, he was captured and he was put behind bars. And we don't really know what happened ever since then. But here's the thing. At the end of this chapter, the latest chapter, the reason why it's relevant for me to mention Kurogiri, we get to see this new Nomu that looks oddly enough just like Kurogiri. At the very least, the way his eyes are designed. If you compare Kurogiri's eyes to this new Nomu's face and like his eyes and stuff, they look very similar. Like, they're almost identical, which many started to speculate today that is it possible that Kurogiri's quirk was put into Nomu? For instance, he was taken and made into a Nomu. Because as we know that the Nomus are manufactured. They have a bunch of quirks pushed together with each other, and it makes the individual go completely brain dead, to where they no longer can think. They're just mindless individual soldiers that all for one could control and throw out there as, forces. And now Shigaraki obviously has control of that. And here's the thing, though. We do know that a bunch of people can be meshed together to do that. And for all we know, Kurogiri could have been used for that Nomu. But here's the thing. From what we are aware of, Kurogiri, he's behind bars. So, I highly doubt it's the same person. Unless, here's some speculation. All for One was able to somehow clone Kurogiri to make a copy of him. Or maybe there's been some form of breakthrough and maybe twice his quirk to where he can make duplicates of people. He was able to make a duplicate of Kurogiri and then force him into the Nomu, for all we know. We really don't know. But that's the big point I want to kind of state now, is that for all we know, it most likely isn't Kurogiri. But it does look very similar. Now, I want to shelf that section of the chapter for now. I'll get into that later on in this video, because there is kind of a few things to talk about. But let's get into the hero politics. Lots and lots of hero politics within this chapter. There is some good characterization for Hawk. Hawk, as we know, was introduced in last chapter. And as we found out, Hawks was apparently the person that was teaching Tokoyami. Tokoyami was working underneath him in his internship. So this once again makes me believe that Tokoyami is going to become very relevant very soon, at the very least for this arc, for Hawks to be getting all of this spotlight, because Tokoyami learnt underneath him. And so for Tokoyami, of all people, of all characters, to work underneath Hawks, he's most likely not that bad of a guy. That's what I'm assuming. Even though many's general impressions of him with this chapter, they might think very negatively of him, I don't think he is that bad of a guy, and I will explain. So, much of the beginning of the chapter, it's basically all of the individual heroes, the top 10 heroes, given a speech to how they feel about their ranking, how they feel about being in their spot. For instance, Ryukyu, she basically says, like, in all honesty, I don't deserve to be in the top 10. I failed someone, I let someone die, which I'm assuming she's talking about Night Eye. And then also she's like, I wish someone else could have my spot, but because, I can't really control that and you put me in the top 10, I will try to live up to your expectations. I think out of all the speeches that we got, I think Ryukyu's speech was the most human. It didn't feel forced, and it felt like she was truly speaking from the heart about how she feels. She wasn't just trying to be nice for the sake of being nice. She was just really saying how she feels. She put her heart out there for everybody to understand. Now, the next heroes that we're discussing, all of the individual heroes, they had their own things to say, which was just very plain, which that's what Hawks even says in the chapter, that they had very plain and boring speeches, and they were playing it, aka safe. Now, what he means by this is that the top 10 heroes were saying what the public wanted to hear. They were all saying what would make them happy for the time being. And that was very conceited and naive of the heroes to say, especially in the way time is changing. Here's the reason why Hawks acted like he did. When Edgeshot was talking about how, he doesn't care about fame or glory, and he wants to just be a hero for the sake of being a hero, it's very honorable. When you look at his dialogue and all that, what Edgeshot was saying, you're like, that's a good man. That's a quality hero right there. Him not wanting to be a part of the top 10. He doesn't care about numbers or anything. He just wants to be a good hero. Many would think that's a good dude. That's what a hero should be. But here's the thing though. Hawks interrupts and pretty much exposes Edgeshot and kind of how his line of thinking is wrong. So let's get into that. He's like, the only people that are truly going to be happy with your statement is Stain. Someone like Stain. And what he was trying to say is, extremists like Stain is the only people you're truly trying to make happy with what you just said. For instance, Edgeshot is a type of character that Stain would say, I love you, man, you're a good hero, I want you a part of Hero Society. That's what Stain would say, after hearing what Edgeshot said with his speech. Now, automatically, with Hawk saying what he said, Stain would definitely come after that man. Oh, he would definitely go to end that man after what he said, especially kind of name-dropping Stain of all things. But anyways, he's like, you're just playing it safe. And he was kind of saying, stop playing these politics, stop trying to make people smile and make them think like everything is okay, stop trying to butter them up and say what they want to hear, because since Stain was such a massive influence in Hero Society and Villain Society, on both sides, he was a major influence. He started a whole new era for heroes and villains alike, and because of his influence, a lot of people have talked about him, become fans of him. Even modern-day civilians, they just became fans of Stain because of how he felt about heroes. And it exposed a lot of problems with Hero Society, how they were all about money, fame, getting their, self out there to where the media would talk about them. He exposed that. And in a lot of ways, it was a good thing, what Stain did. He revealed a problem in today's society. But at the same time, his methods obviously were wrong in a lot of areas. The public automatically assumes kind of, if you're not in it for the glory, if you're not in it for, fame and all that, obviously you're kind of a good hero. You're doing, good work. But with him saying what he did, he's like, just stop playing politics. Stop saying what you want, like the audience wants to hear. Be yourself. He's like, stop putting on masks. Stop hiding what you truly are. That's what I think he was trying to do. When he, did the zip-up emotion, he's like, he did that. I'm like, most likely, he's like, why don't you just, you shut up? Because it's clear as day that you probably are not like that. Because that's what I got. My impressions of this chapter was just hero politics. And Edgeshot was definitely falling in line with that. And Hawks was someone that wanted to poke the beehive. And he basically just didn't want to play what everybody else was playing. He wanted to just be himself. In a lot of ways, I respect Hawks for that. He may not have been the nicest person in this chapter. He may have came out with a very negative attitude, and many might not like him. I know many readers of the manga might not like him after this chapter. But I think out of all of the individuals, he felt the most human besides Ryukyu, and also how Endeavor acted at the end. See, he was just like, I don't want to be here, I don't care about this politic crap, I just want to do my job, and that's pretty much what it looked like to me, looking at his character, and the way he was getting very atchy, the way he was scratching his head, the way he was getting all fidgety and all that, just the way he acted, it showed he didn't want to be here. It showed that he didn't want to deal with this at all. He probably has a busy life, or he just doesn't care about this at all, he doesn't care about the show, which proves that he could potentially be a good guy that is one of those individuals that doesn't care about fame and fortune. He wants to probably be a part of top 10, but he doesn't want to deal with the politics that come with being near the top, which is why he talked to Endeavor like he did. He's like, in all honesty, I don't want to be number one. I'd rather be in the 20s or 30s. He wouldn't have to put up with this top 10 crap or have to, do these politics with other heroes at the top. I think that's what he was really talking about. He's like, it's such a bother. It's annoying to deal with. And I feel like that's kind of where he was coming from, and I can understand that, especially when you get a certain high position, like if you're a hero. Obviously, if you become a hero, you're a public figure. And since you become a public figure, you're someone that has to also watch what you say. And it's kind of like how people are on YouTube as well. It's a very relatable event as well. And I, once again, love how Horikoshi incorporates real-life events or stuff that happens in real life within his story. And so Hawks is an example of an individual that just wanted to be a hero, but not have to affiliate with politics. And Endeavor, the reason why he did what he did to Endeavor, kind of like throwing him under the bus and say your approval ratings or, your lower than number 4 and all that, which that was pretty heinous to say to Endeavor on stage. Of all people to say that to, that was probably the most ballsy move you can do. And he threw him under the bus. And if this would have been classic Endeavor, I don't think he would have, like, broke down and started yelling at the man, but he might have said something very awful in his speech, and it probably wouldn't have reflected good on his number 1 spot right now. And I believe Hawks is trying to see if Endeavor is taking his position seriously or not, or if he's just acting like he always did in the past. When he says, I actually like you, man, like, you know, I respect you, and all that, it was obvious that he was saying that because he kept his cool. He didn't break down, start yelling at the man, or try to be childish and banter with the man and put him down as well. He decided to be civil and just carry on with what he wants to do, what he believes in. And so he's like, you know what, I'm not doing a speech. That's what Endeavor did. He's like, I'm not doing a speech. Just watch me. Just watch me. See what I do, and then you can judge me and see what goes down in Hero Society. So I think what Endeavor said was probably the best way to handle the situation. He, in turn, basically is like, you know what? You are correct. It's kind of like he was acknowledging what Hawks said about him. He's like, you are right. He didn't try to refute that fact or act like it was false or anything. And he's like, you know what? That may be true, but just watch me. Just watch me, see what I do, and then you can be the judge if I really do deserve this number 1 spot or not. So I feel like Endeavor is definitely showcasing that he's taking his hero duties very seriously, and he's not trying to say, I'm number 1, I'm the strongest hero of Japan. He's not trying to act like that. He clearly has matured a lot. So anyways, yeah, Hawks as a character, I think he's pretty cool. I want more of him, because for now, we do know that he probably is a stand-up guy, but at the same time, he probably is one of those individuals, or those type of characters, or people, that, became too popular too quickly, and does not know how to deal with the fame. That's the impression I also get of his character, because look at this. It's stated in this chapter that Hawks, at a very early age, he's the youngest hero to be a part of the top 10. And Endeavor, obviously, he's very impressive as well how early he became a hero and part of the top 10, but Hawks is obviously a different story. He's a prodigy. And with fame at an early age, even if you're 18, it's a lot to handle and tackle at that age. And I feel like Hawks might be having issues to where he doesn't know how to handle being that high up. He might be very young. He has that young streak, that young schoolboy type personality, and he doesn't know how to handle certain things like an adult. That's also the impression I got of him while reading this chapter. It is stated that Nomu right now is gaining intelligence, or has intelligence. We even get to see Nomu talk, which this is something that we have not seen before in the series. Nomu has always been this individual, this creature that was controlled, manufactured and controlled by the person that was in charge of them. For instance, what we saw with Dabi in the recent episodes of My Hero Academia, or Shigaraki commanding them, thanks to All For One giving control of them. You know, we've seen this in the past. We've seen how they're able to follow orders, but at the same time, they've never been able to be their own individual. They've never been able to be, you know, their own self, think for what they want to do, and act for what they believe in. This is something we've never actually seen in My Hero Academia yet. And so seeing a Nomu actually gaining intelligence, it's pretty scary, because we do know that Nomus have the capability and the capacity to fight someone like All Might. Think about it like this. All Might's fight at the beginning of the story, when he actually fought a Nomu, that was a pretty scary Nomu, because it was designed to fight All Might, and it put up a pretty freaking good fight against All Might of all people. I mean, after seeing what All Might did against All For One, obviously it pales in comparison, but even then though, that was just a test. It was just a test manufactured Nomu just to see what it could do against All Might, and obviously progression of Nomus have increased. It's definitely a lot further than it was in the past, especially with them gaining intelligence. And so if something could be created like that, fast manufacture, like just constantly, that's pretty scary for Izuku. Like, if something is designed to fight something like that, how in the hell is Izuku supposed to fight something like that, which would make All Might himself even struggle against? And so, yeah, that's a big thing we need to take from this chapter. But another thing, too, with it gaining intelligence, it does make me wonder exactly, since it is a bunch of, like, people pieced together, and, like, someone that technically should have went brain dead, I'm kind of curious on who this individual is, if it isn't Kurogiri, because, I mean, for all we know, it could be him, but we don't know what happened to him in the prison. I wonder if they might become what they once were, or seek their own path, or turn against the League of Villains, because when something gains intelligence and self-awareness and all that, obviously it's going to gain the capacity to want to do what it wants, instead of following orders, and since it was created like it is, and it starts learning that it has its own choices, it might try to not instead be a villain, but become a hero. For all we know, High End, this new enemy that was introduced at the end of the chapter, could eventually become a good guy. And it would be believable because some of these Nomus are created from good people. For instance, it is speculated that one of Bakugo's friends was turned into a Nomu, and that is the reason why the Nomu grabbed Izuku a long time ago in the Stain arc. When it grabbed Izuku and started flying off with him, it was implied that that was Bakugo's childhood friend, and that's a big thing. We do know that Nomus are created with innocent individuals. So for all we know, that they could eventually become good guys as well. But we'll see where it goes. But High End is definitely looking to be a pretty intriguing, adversary so far. I do feel like it's probably going to be a very tough fight for anyone to handle, and Endeavor is getting involved with Hawks, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting arc. We're probably finally going to get a little bit more clarification to Nomus, and if I had to assume when Nomu's popping back up, that means that All For One might eventually make his move very soon, probably break out of prison, because like I said in my last week's chapter review of My Hero Academia, we don't even know if All For One really is locked up. Like, I mean, he's there obviously in prison, but we don't know if he has the capabilities of breaking out or not. With all the countless and hundreds of quirks this man has, there's bound to be a quirk that can get him out of there. There's bound to be a quirk. And so when you think about that, for all we know, he could have left anytime he wants. He could leave right now, but he just doesn't want to. He just wants to see how the world is turned upside down, and he'll leave when the time is right, and then turn the Hero Society back upside down once again. I mean, that's for what we could assume that could potentially happen, but we don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to this chapter, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you enjoyed this week's chapter of My Hero Academia. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Chibi out.